The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Sunday afternoon. It's been a while. We haven't talked in a while. Right? Last time I tried to do the show, we got YouTube crashed. I mean, I think it's a conspiracy to try to silence me. And to do that, they had to crash all of YouTube's servers. And it turned out they failed, because here I am again. And today, YouTube is working fine. So I'm back. Did a quick trip to Colorado, where I gave a talk on Friday. Man, it took, if I didn't love the people at LPR and didn't love that program, it took forever. You know, getting there is not too bad, but getting back to Puerto Rico from Denver takes 2 days. So I got back home last night, and here I am. Yeah, it was a good talk. I wish we could release the videos of all my talks at LPR, because I give good talks at LPR, and they videotape them, but they're exclusive to LPR grads. So you guys all miss out on them. Wow. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. I've got a bunch of topics lined up. Somebody gave me last time before the show, I got $100 to cover this topic about San Francisco schools. So we got to do that. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Lex Fridman interview that just went live. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it. We're going to talk about vaccines. We're going to talk about election fraud. We're going to end with a clip of me analyzing a clip of my good buddy Tucker Carlson, and we'll do that. So tons to talk about. Of course, always available for Super Chat. So feel free to put stuff up that you'd like me to talk about beyond all of these issues. Of course, the more dollars you put on the Super Chat, the more likely it is to get a response from me. So I encourage you to do $20 or more. $20 catches my attention. Less than $20, not so much. I try to answer all the questions, although I am a little time constrained today. We can't go over an hour and a half. But I'll get to all the questions I can. If not, I'll continue answering the questions in the next show. Next show will probably be on Tuesday. We've also got a bunch of big matches coming up. So I've got one person who has offered to match all Super Chat contributions up to $1,500. So we will do that probably later this week. We'll do a show dedicated to some topic, and we'll have a $1,500 match. And then the show on Pride. Troy has said that when I do the show on Pride, the last in the series on the virtues, he will match $1,000 in Super Chat and another $1,000 for 250 likes. So what we need to get a lot of people watching live my show on Pride, which is going to be a challenge because the shows on the virtues have not gotten huge live audiences. So we're going to have to move. So if you get 250 likes, he's going to give $1,000 and $1,000 match in addition to that. So we're going to have to kind of do some internal advertising, marketing to get people excited about the show on Pride. Probably a couple of weeks away, but we will get to it. All right. Let's jump in, right? Thanks, Wes. Really appreciate it. Lex Fridman interview is up online. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes long. I thought it was over 3 hours, but I think he cut a little bit. He cut a little bit of our chatting in the beginning, and so it's 2 hours and 50, which is great. I love long interviews. The longer, the better. I think I do well with long interviews, where you don't feel time constrained, and you have to really condense your answers, but you're more of a conversation. I thought the interview was fantastic. You guys should watch it. Let me know what you think. The people who have some of the people who've watched it, I saw really liked it. So thank you. And the best way to show your appreciation for the Lex Fridman show is to share it widely. We're already up to about, last I looked, 74,000 views. 74,000 views. That's in 2 days, 3 days, 74,000 views. So that's pretty amazing. Some of his interviews get close to 1 million views. So share. That's how we're going to increase the viewership. Get the word out there. I think it's a great way to introduce people to Ayn Rand and to objectivism. I think it's a nice presentation of the material. If people like interviews, if people like conversation, and hopefully that'll be a bridge to people actually reading Ayn Rand, which is ultimately the goal. Always the goal is to get people to read Ayn Rand and Leonard Peikoff. I really enjoyed it. I mean, Lex is a really cool guy. I mean, it was funny because. I'm not nervous when I do interviews, so I wasn't nervous, but he was nervous at the beginning, and he admitted, and he said, I'm really nervous, and I said, why? This is ridiculous. And he basically said, that he's been following my work for 15 years and was nervous to be interviewing me, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, it's just me, what are you talking about? But it just shows the kind of influence I have, that I think I have, on people out there that I don't even know I'm having that influence. I didn't even know who Lex was until he contacted me, and I went and saw, wow, I mean, this guy's got a huge following, 750,000 subscribers, and a bunch of these 3-hour interviews. He specializes in 3-hour interviews. No, I don't think I had particularly good sleep before that interview. The adrenaline kicks in when I do an interview, and I can go on for another. Could have gone on for another 3 hours. I don't think it would have lagged, and I'm hoping that we do another interview because I certainly enjoyed it. And with these kind of viewership numbers, for me, they're great. Hopefully, it'll be good enough for Lex. Another reason to share it is to get the viewership numbers up, because the higher the numbers, the more incentive he will have to to have me on again. Right? If my numbers are low, why would he have me on again? What else can I tell you about Lex? Somebody said. It's the best interview I've done in a long, long time. I don't know. I mean, I think I do good interviews. So the 3 interviews that stand out in my mind are this one, the Ben Shapiro interview, and the Dave Rubin interview. So the 2 Dave Rubin interviews. So, I think those are my 3-4 best interviews. They're longer interviews. But I think generally I do well in interviews. I do well when somebody else is asking questions, where I have to give condensed answers, we're more relaxed. Some people have said that I sound much better in interviews because on the show I'm yelling all the time. I'm at 11, as Brad Thompson tells me, that I'm constantly at 11. The reference to Spinal Tap. If you haven't watched that movie, you should. The volume's too high, the intensity's too high. But when I'm calmer, when I'm answering questions, when I'm more relaxed, I do better. And indeed, Brad claims that if I was calmer, if I spoke in this voice and I just articulated my case without the yelling and without the excitement, that my audience would be dramatically higher. It would be dramatically bigger. And he's actually, trying to get me to pay him to be my manager so that he can give me that one piece of advice, because it's the only piece of advice he's ever. I'm kidding, but that one piece of advice. So maybe I'll try. I'll try this of trying to be calmer, trying to be more relaxed, trying to talk like this. I think I do that more on like the virtue shows, and viewership is not very high, so I'm not sure this will work. But certainly we can try. All right. Anyway, so. The other thing I liked about Lex was that he asked good questions, deep questions, questions about stuff that he cares about, and then he asked follow-up questions, and you could tell that he liked the answers, and the answers stimulated him to think more. He strikes me as an honest thinker. He's trying to figure it out. He's trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong. I mean, he really is incredibly thoughtful, and I really like that about him. By the way, just to give you a sense, over the last 3 days, because of the Lex Fridman show, my number of subscribers has gone up by 500-600, something like that. So we've added 500-600 subscribers to the show. So again, another reason to share the show. I seem to be getting a 1% hit rate on subscriptions, maybe a little less than 1% in terms of the number of people watching, and so on. Right? Why are people interested in this topic? I don't know. I'm talking about one of the questions. That is what I have to say about the Lex Fridman show. If there are new listeners right now that have come to the show because of Lex, that would be great if you let me know in the super chat. It would be exciting for me to know that I actually have some listeners who discovered me because of Lex Fridman. So that'll be terrific. And it's very exciting to get 500-600 new listeners because of an interview I did. So tremendous value. I really like Lex. I hope we can do this again. I hope we have a good, continue to have a good relationship. And I'm sure we will. I've become a fan of his work, and he's been a fan of mine, it turns out, for a while. And this is terrific. This is terrific. I don't know if I'll ever do Joe Rogan. I know there's a lot of conversation here. I'd love to do Joe Rogan. I think I'd do a good Joe Rogan interview, but Joe seems uninterested in having me on. I'd like to do the Weinstein, one of the Weinstein brothers. I think would also be fun. But I think they're a little worried to have me on to be labeled as, I don't know, right wing, whatever. All right, let's see. That was Lex. Let me take this $50 super chat question. See, you get priority when you put real money. Hi, Yaron. Love the show. Any recommendations in good literature about the benefits of private sector and market forces for education? Education feels pretty dominated by anti-capitalist sentiment. Yeah. I can't think of any literature. I mean, what do you mean by literature? You mean just books. You don't mean fiction books. You don't mean literature as in fiction. That's what I associate literature with. You mean just books about the benefits of private sector and market forces for education. Well, I did an interview on this show, on the Iran Book Show, with James Tooley. He's got a book called The Beautiful Tree, which is very good on that issue, is fantastic on that issue, and generally the work of James Tooley is very good on this. Marva Collins had a private school, and she wrote quite a bit about her private school and what it could do. So I would definitely look at Marva Collins and James Tooley, of course Maria Montessori, but she didn't really write about the market forces. I'm sure there are other books. If you just look free market education and just do a Google search, I think you'll find some really good books on education and on the private sector. But James Tooley, I did an interview on this show. Just put Tooley, Yaron Brook, in YouTube, and you'll find the show. I think you'll find that fascinating. And my guess is if you go to James Tooley and you follow him, he's the best person to give recommendations about free market education, books about it, because that's what he does. That's his thing. He's an academic in England, and that's what he does. All right, just one quick topic, which is catch up. But last show I was going to talk about this under wacky things coming out of the left. So this is a wacky thing coming out of the left. So in San Francisco, the school board is engaged in the process of renaming 44 of the 125 schools in the district, and it is actually doing a survey with parents about changing the names and what names they would like and what names they don't like and so on. So, it's COVID. Schools are barely open. They're having challenges about how to do education given COVID. They're doing remote education. Budgets of cities and counties and states where most education dollars come from are shrinking because of COVID. But the San Francisco School District has nothing else to do but to figure out how to change the names of the schools, right? Change the names of the schools because they're worried about these names of the schools. Now, I can understand if some of these schools were maybe named like the General Lee or the Jefferson Davis schools, these Civil War Southern, post-slavery fighters, people who fought for slavery, Okay, well, maybe one could, but 44 of these schools, this has raised some suspicion. They're not 44, pro-slavery people. Are there really that many really, really bad people in that San Francisco has schools named after them that you'd want to change their school name? So, so I got a list. Of these schools, and it's quite interesting to look at these. I mean, some of these I just don't know what's going on because there must be a backstory, but I don't know what it is. And then the San Francisco Chronicle ran, with its readers, ran a survey asking them which school names would they, of the 44, which of their schools would they want to change the name. So they ran a survey. So here's some school names that San Francisco, in its great wisdom, is spending money, resources, brain power, time, effort, in order to rename their schools, right? I mean, this one's a good one. I would rename the school the Dianne Feinstein Elementary School. Can you believe that Dianne Feinstein, the senator from California, has a school named after her? Exactly what has she done to deserve that great credit? But here we are, Dianne Feinstein Elementary. The voters in this poll that the San Francisco Chronicle ran, the number one school name that they believed needed to be changed was indeed the Dianne Feinstein School. So at least the San Francisco Chronicle readers seem to have good taste. Number 10 was Junipero Serra Elementary. I don't know what Junipero Serra means, what it stands for, why anybody would have a problem with that. Herbert Hoover Middle School. Herbert Hoover, President of the United States. Pretty bad president, not a good president. Maybe he was a racist, maybe something like that. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know why. I mean, other than he was a bad president, that he basically turned a recession into a depression because of all his bad policies. That's good reason not to have a middle school named after him. But I find it hard to believe that would be it. All right, let's see. Francis Scott Key. Don't know who that is. Alamo Elementary. They're offended by the Alamo. Standing up for liberty against Mexican oppression. Santa Anna was a dictator of Mexico, and the Texas declared independence, and they fought the Alamo for the cause of liberty and freedom, and that's offensive to some people. But this one, on the flip side of the Alamo, is Noriega. EES, Noriega School. Noriega, can you imagine the communist killer, Noriega, Nicaragua, who I think is the president now of Nicaragua, is an authoritarian, but for many years a Marxist. They have an elementary school named after Noriega in San Francisco. Okay, that should be changed. Then comes Jefferson. Of course, Jefferson, slave owner. Therefore, can't tolerate Jefferson. So no Jefferson schools. We gotta change that name. Then Sherman. This one is an interesting one. Sherman Elementary. Now, why don't they like Sherman? I mean, Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Okay, well, she's obviously an American exceptionalist, and therefore she wrote the national anthem. So in America, we know, is this horrible country. So that's why they don't like her as a name. Francis is a name. But think about Sherman, right? If not for Sherman, we might still be fighting the Civil War. If not for Sherman, the South might have actually succeeded in seceding, and the war would have ended maybe in a stalemate. Without Sherman, there would have been slavery. Who knows for how long? I mean, Sherman won the Civil War. General Sherman, by going to the South, making the civilian population of the South suffer the consequences of the war they engaged in. Yes, I get it. Francis is a he. As soon as I said it, I knew it. Sorry about that. But, Sherman is a hero for anybody who believes slavery was an abomination. Sherman won the Civil War. Sherman ended slavery. Sherman is the one general in all of American history unequivocally is a good guy. Yes, he fought an unconventional war. That's why he won. He understood the war was not was not civilized. War needed to be won, and sometimes it was brutal. George Washington High School. They don't like George Washington. I mean, who do they like? Because they don't like Noriega either. So they don't like the communist Noriega, and they don't like George Washington. I guess, again, because he has slaves. But like, wow. I mean, this is American history. The greatest president maybe we've ever had was George Washington. Because he understood his role. Balboa. I don't know what the problem was with Balboa. McKinley. I don't like President McKinley. McKinley was not a good president. But I don't think I dislike him for the same reason they do. Garfield, is that also a president? Not a very good one. I don't know much about the Garfield presidency. I'm going through some of these other names to see Stockton. Oh, Stockton was one of the robber barons, I guess, was a wealthy industrialist. I think. I'm not sure. Abraham Lincoln. Oh, they don't like Abraham Lincoln either. Maybe the school board of San Francisco actually does like slavery. I think the theme here is that they're actually pro-slavery. Because the two people most responsible for ending slavery in America, at least directly, are Abraham Lincoln and General Sherman. Monroe, they don't like President Monroe for some reason. Don't know. Maybe he owned slaves or something. I don't know. Robert Louis Stevenson, the author. What's up with that? Presidio? They don't like the Presidio? Right. All right, those are the ones I have. Anyway, I mean, not a single problematic name that I saw on there except presidents who I really, really, really don't like. Garfield's presidency was short. Tom says, yeah, he was short. He was shot shortly into it. So what did he do that's so offensive that his name has to be taken off? Oh, this is the Noriega. There was the ruler of Panama. I thought Noriega was the communist. Isn't he the president of Nicaragua? Balboa was a Spanish explorer. Okay, so I get it. Exploiter of the native people. That's why. Interesting. Anyway, this is what they've got to do with their time. This is what they've got to do with their efforts, right? I know that John Brown did more to fight slavery, maybe because he created the environment in which an Abe Lincoln could come up. But in terms of direct impact on slavery, the two people that had the most direct impact on slavery by winning that war was Ortega is the one from Nicaragua. Ortega. Now, they have an Ortega school here, too. Wait. I saw Ortega here. There's definitely an Ortega school as well. So it's still, okay, so what I said about the other guy, move it on to Ortega. Because they do have an Ortega and they want to change that school as well. This just seems like crazy leftist, no real thought, random, generally anti people who supported slavery, but then you've got in Sherman and Lincoln, and then Jose Ortega Elementary. I assume Jose Ortega is the guy you guys are referring for. No, this is Daniel Ortega. So I'm not sure who Jose Ortega is. Yeah, maybe we can find out who. Anyway, the whole thing is, I'm sure Che Guevara will not be changed. They love Che Guevara. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is no communists here that they want to change. It's just Americans. They just hate America. Even the mayor of San Francisco, a pretty far-out leftist, said this was a waste of time and please to stop this and focus on maybe things that are more substantive going on. Somebody asked, would you do a show ranking your top 10 presidents with reasons? I'm trying to think of presidents you do like. That would be tough, partially because I'm not that good at history. I just don't know enough of it, American history. But, I'd say the first 5 presidents I like. John Adams wasn't particularly good because of the Sedition Act. But I like Washington, Jefferson. I think Madison. I like Coolidge and Cleveland. I don't think any president in the last 90 years, would that be right? 90 years. Coolidge is the last good president who would make a top 10. And I think, according to the chairman of FEE, the best president was, from a free market perspective, was Cleveland. He basically had the most vetoes and shrunk the size of government. Even in the 19th century, he didn't believe government should spend any more, as little as it was already spending. All right, let's see. Yeah, Andrew Jackson was a really bad president. The first populist, authoritarian kind of president. So a lot of the presidents before Andrew Jackson are pretty good. Lincoln is a good president in spite of some bad things he did. He would definitely make my top 10. Right? He would definitely make my top 10. Reagan would not make my top 10. He'd make my top 10. He'd make my top 5 of 20th century presidents. Right? But not my top 10 all time. They would all be in the 19th century, with the all be pre-20th century, with the exception of Coolidge. Coolidge is the only 20th century president who would make my top 10. The only other 20th century president I have any respect for is Truman, and that's only because he had the moral courage to drop the nukes on Japan. But you know, I get more hatred. Eisenhower was awful, awful. He was an awful general and an awful president. Woodrow Wilson is one of my worst 5 presidents. All my worst 5 presidents are in the 20th century, or 21st century, if you include Obama and Trump. But Woodrow Wilson definitely makes one of the worst 5. Eisenhower would make worst 25. Eisenhower was just a nothing compromising, complete sellout, right? All right, let's get back to our list of topics. We'll get to the super chat at the end. Wilson was a racist, but Wilson gave us the World War I. He gave us the League of Nations. He gave us the income tax and the Federal Reserve. I mean, I can't think of anybody in a sense. And he set the foundations for all the statism that followed. So FDR would make my bottom 5. You know, but Wilson is worse, right? All right. I wanted to say a few things about the Pfizer vaccine because so now they want me to do the worst 10 presidents with reasons. Yeah, we can do that. We can do best and worst presidents with reasons. I can do a show. On that. You know, maybe I'll invite an historian. We'll see. We'll see if I can find an historian who can help support my arguments for and against, because I'm sure I could use some help from somebody, you know, an historian who really knows this stuff. How come I got 3 thumbs down? I haven't covered anything controversial today, and already people are hating on me. Wow, I haven't even said Trump once. Oh, no, I did say once. Maybe that's why the 3 are there. All right, I wanted to talk about the vaccine. So as you know, Pfizer came out, was it now, over a week ago, and said that that they have a vaccine that's 90% effective. I mean, 90% effective is off the charts. I mean, nobody expected that a vaccine would have 90% effectiveness. And, you know, Pfizer came out and announced it, and it was a huge deal. So a few things that I found interesting in the story about the vaccine. First of all, the first thing to note about the vaccine is, thank you, Thomas, is how fast it was produced. I mean, wow. It's what, 7 months? That is a world record for vaccine development. Vaccines in the past have taken decades, years, if not decades. Vaccine production of finding an effective vaccine is very, very, very difficult. And I think this is a dramatic indication of how far biotech has advanced and how far the science has advanced, and a real testament to the human mind and to the private sector and to biotech companies and the pharma industry. We'll talk a little bit about pharma and biotech in a minute, but a real testament to the science and the advancements and the understanding that we have now of how viruses work and how the human immune system works. And so terrific, amazing achievements. We should definitely be celebrating this. We should definitely be, celebrating the achievement that this is produced. OMG writes that there seems to be two types of rapid prototype vaccines. One is mRNA. mRNA is the Pfizer vaccine. It's an immunotherapy. And the other one is adenovirus and spike protein, which is a different technology that University of Oxford and other U.S. vaccine makers are using that. I'm not sure the Moderna one, which one that is. I think it's also an mRNA. I think it's also an mRNA vaccine. But anyway, these are brand new technologies, state of the art, were not possible just a few years ago. A lot of it has to do with the understanding of the role of RNA, the role of our own immune system, which is constantly developing, constantly improving. It is truly stunning, the advancements we've made and the ability of these biotech companies to do the work as fast as they did. So first, good for Pfizer, and I'm hoping Moderna comes out next week with some pretty awesome results as well. That's what the rumors have, that they'll announce maybe Monday or Tuesday. So I want to make that's point number one. The second point I wanted to make was about who actually developed this vaccine. Because Pfizer's getting all the credit, but it really wasn't Pfizer. Pfizer is the company that got the vaccine through the FDA approval process. Pfizer is the company that will figure out the logistics of distribution. They will be the ones who market and distribute it. They have the logistical expertise. They have the capacity to scale production, so they will be responsible for producing the vaccine. But Pfizer did not do the science behind this vaccine. The science behind this vaccine was done by a German company, by a company called BioNTech. That's how you pronounce the name. BioNTech. BioNTech. A company that was founded in Mainz, in Germany, in 2008. A company that really was focused on immunotherapeutic cancer drugs. So immunotherapy, again, is using our own immune system to fight cancer. That was the basis on which they did it. Pfizer did not take $300 million to develop the vaccine. Pfizer took the money from Warp Speed in order to manufacture and distribute. In other words, they took the money to sell the vaccine to the United States, to consumers in the United States, to the U.S. government. Not a single American dollar went into the development of this vaccine. The development of this vaccine was funded by this biotech company in Germany with Pfizer. Pfizer got the money. Basically, they got the money for production and distribution of the vaccine, not the actual science behind it. What's fascinating about this company, and some of you really should block your ears now, because this is going to be very, very, very offensive to some people who typically listen to my show. So, I gave you a trigger warning. I've given you enough time to shut this down, to press stop, to plug your ears or whatever. But the BioNTech is a company that was founded by a husband and wife duo, trigger warning now. And then their names are Uğur Şahin and Özlem Türeci. And shockingly, and the impossibility of this is truly amazing, Şahin and Türeci are children of Turkish immigrants to Germany. oh my God, that is impossible. Turkish immigrants in Germany are Muslims, and they're going to turn, I mean, the only purpose of them immigrating to Germany is to turn Germany into part of the Caliphate. And yet, here they are, children of Turkish Muslim immigrants. You know, one of them, the father worked at a Ford factory, the other one, so a worker, manual worker, and the other one was actually a doctor, you know, the Turks, doctors. And here they are. So the husband is the CEO. The wife, a woman, is the chief medical officer. This isn't the first biotech company they started. The first biotech company they started was in 2001. It was called Gandimed Pharmaceuticals, and it was sold. It was sold in 2016 for 1.3 billion euros. 1.3 billion euros. So this couple are probably billionaires, if not, they're worth many hundreds of millions. And it was sold to a Japanese pharma company. In 2008, they founded BioNTech. So these people ran two companies. I mean, amazing entrepreneurs. BioNTech is developing these cancer immunotherapies. They're research centered on messenger RNA, mRNA. And it turns out that mRNA can be used for the development of vaccines. And when Corona hits, now they had been working with Pfizer on a flu vaccine. And when March hit, when Corona hit, they pivoted. And they agreed to work with Pfizer on applying the technology that they already had, applying the technology that they had worked with Pfizer on for the flu vaccine. They pivoted to working on a coronavirus vaccine. And, you know, they did it. They were the first ones. They were the first ones to actually develop this. You know, we won't know how many lives these people will have saved in Europe and the rest of the world. You know, this is true breakthrough type technology. This is the first vaccine developed with this kind of technology. As I said, Moderna is using a similar technology, mRNA technology as well. Moderna is an American biotech company. But this is truly amazing. Now, just to be clear, Pfizer was not very involved in the science. Pfizer primarily took care of dealing with the FDA and dealing with European regulators and other regulators. So Pfizer managed the clinical trials. For that, you need infrastructure and you need a lot of money. And Pfizer is responsible for clinical trials, by the way, in the U.S., while the BioNTech conducted their own clinical trials in Germany. And Pfizer is, you know, is done all the late stage, the global late stage trials. And Pfizer is responsible for the manufacturing and distribution of this vaccine. We'll get to distribution in a minute because it is very difficult to distribute this. So we're talking about an interesting partnership. Now, one of the issues about partnership of this issue, one of the interesting aspects of this is kind of typically what pharmaceutical companies in the United States have become because of regulations, because of constraints, because of the bad rap pharmaceutical companies get. The pharmaceutical companies do very little basic science anymore. What the pharmaceutical companies are really, really, really good at is FDA trials, going through the FDA process, manufacturing and distribution and marketing. That's what pharma is good at. And what they do is they let biotech companies do the science, and then they buy either the drugs or the company, the whole company. They buy it once it is proved efficacious to some extent. And then once it is efficacious, they take that drug and they manufacture it and they distribute it and they do the marketing and they get it approved by the FDA and they do all the things that you need to do. So Big Pharma has become, I'm a big fan of Big Pharma, so don't take this as an insult, it's just a reality because of the way they're regulated. That what they become is primarily a regulatory marketing, manufacturing, distribution entities. They are no longer huge entities that have real power when it comes to science. The science is done by small biotech, innovative biotech companies, and then the biotech company builds itself up to sell to pharma that then can leverage that and get them through the FDA and do all that kind of stuff. Right? I mean, hugely value-adding. You need somebody like that, and given the regulations that we have, you need somebody who can deal with the regulators, and that's what Big Pharma is doing. So incredibly valuable. So I thought that was interesting. That the story of these entrepreneurs is a terrific story. It's a story that I hope is told over and over and over again, and that we kind of internalize. By the way, the CEO of Pfizer is a guy named Dr. Albert Bourla, who he seems like a good guy, and again, Pfizer's done a really good job getting these trials done and getting the FDA to approve, hopefully to approve next week, the drug for distribution. But Albert, and again, you might want to block your ears, but Albert Bourla is also an immigrant, in this case to the United States, and in this case from Greece. I don't know. I heard these immigrants are useless. But at least some of them seem to be quite productive. Finally, one other thing about the Pfizer vaccine, and this is going to be true of Moderna, one of the problems with these, it looks like these mRNA vaccines, is that they're very, very unstable, let's call them. That is, the vaccine it requires that it be stored at extremely cold temperatures. Now, we're talking about minus 80 Celsius or minus 112 degrees Fahrenheit. I bet somewhere else it's 90-something degrees Fahrenheit. But anyway, really cold. The kind of cold that would kill you in 5 minutes if you went in, even if you were wearing like a snowsuit and everything. I mean, colder than it gets in Michigan. And that's cold, because Michigan is really cold, as Jennifer will tell you. Right? Really, really, this is Antarctica-like cold in the worst time. Right? Now, this is the problem. You got millions and millions of these, right? Because every human being is going to have to get two shots, right? So you got 2 doses for every human being. Let's say that's 700 million doses in the United States. And then globally, you've got billions of these. And you've got to store this at minus 80 Celsius. You've got to transport it in dry ice. As far as I know, there's just not enough dry ice available to do this. So think about now the logistics, the infrastructure that you have to build in order to be able to transport the vaccine. And, Henry asks, is Operation Warp Speed going to start manufacturing? Now, imagine if the government had to do this. Now, you could argue maybe the U.S. Army, the military could do it, given that, they deploy forces all over the world, they do this. But minus 80 degrees Celsius. How are you going to do this? Well, unsurprising to me, but maybe to some of you, it's not the government that's going to solve this problem. Although, from what I hear, governments are running around trying to buy any refrigerator that can store stuff at that cold around, and they're buying huge quantities of them. But no, this is not going to be solved by governments. Who's going to solve this? Well, UPS and DHL and FedEx. UPS is building 2 giant freezer farms capable of supercooling millions of vials of a COVID-19 vaccine. There are going to be 2 facilities, at the beginning at least. One is in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky is, of course, a hub for UPS. They can ship everything out of there. And the other one is in the Netherlands, which is a big UPS hub for Europe and the rest of the world. They're going to have 600 deep freezers. They can each hold 48,000 vials of vaccine at temperatures as low as minus 80 degrees Celsius. From there, they will load these vaccines up onto airplanes, trucks, and other delivery vehicles. on dry ice. So they've done this before because they ship medicines around the world anyway. But now they have to ramp up production of dry ice, production of containers that use dry ice to cool. All of this is happening. UPS, FedEx, DHL. In other words, the private sector is ramping up the production in order to do this mass distribution. And they expect to be airlifting thousands of tons of this kind of stuff all over the United States and all over Europe and all over the world ultimately. I mean, I get a little teary-eyed, I have to say, because this stuff excites me. This stuff is cool. I mean, I know you guys probably want me to talk about the election and Biden and Trump. Who the F... I mean, this stuff is interesting, right? The creation of a vaccine, the science that goes into it, the logistics of it, everything, the thinking, everything that has to go into this is so amazing. It's so exciting. And then the infrastructure and the ability of the private sector to adapt, and people say, oh no, the private sector is short-term thinking. Really? I mean, UPS is building these farms way ahead of any government institution buying the refrigerators. Why? Because no, it is the private sector that is long-term thinking. Long-term thinking. So to me, this is amazing. Leave it to the private sector. Keep the government away from this. Away, please, away. I mean, maybe if they fund it, it'll be relatively okay. But if they have to build it, if they have to transport it, if they have to... No, stay away, government. It is truly a beautiful thing to watch the private sector rise up in an emergency to deal with an emergency. And if they'd left COVID to the private sector, we wouldn't be where we are today. We'd be in much better shape. By the way, we probably would be already taking the vaccine. I'm eager to get the vaccine. I know some of you don't like that, but I'm eager to take the vaccine. But you know, we've known these results for a few weeks now. Why isn't it shipping already? Well, it turns out the FDA has to convene. It has to evaluate the results. It then has to deliberate. It has to discuss. It has to accept opposition views. So they will take about a month to grant emergency approval in an emergency. The private sector, when there's an emergency in the private sector, that means it's an emergency, which means, I mean, it's shocking, I know, but it means you do it fast. You act fast. You move quickly. That's what it means. Don't tell the government, but that's what it means. Limbeck, thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Anyway, to me, this is fascinating. By the way, every one of these freezers that UPS is buying costs anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000. So these farms are costing millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. These are ultra low temperature freezers, special freezers, 10 to 15. So each one of these farms, freezer farms right now, is at a minimal cost of $6 million. That's just for the freezers. I'm not talking about the electricity, the wiring, everything else. That's private companies. Now, yes, the government is probably going to pay for the actual vaccine. But if not the government, insurance companies would do it, and we would have had it by now. Anyway, I think this is cool. This is much more exciting to me than the next topic we're going to move to. Let me just see if any of this, any of the questions are related to the topic we're talking about. No, they're not. So I am going to shift topics. Okay, we're going to shift to another topic. Then we're going to do Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson will be quick. And then we're going to do the rest of the Super Chat questions. Okay, I just want to say this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it really isn't worth it. There are massive allegations of fraud in this election, primarily by people affiliated with Donald Trump, but all kinds, Hannity, other networks, all kinds of stuff everywhere. All kinds of conspiracy theories, supercomputers that are switching votes and disrupting the vote count. And and all kinds of schemes and stuff like that. And all of this, of course, is retweeted constantly by Trump and his allies, and probably by even some of you, and so on. Oh, we got more thumbs down, I guess, because of my what I said about the Turkish immigrants in the Turks being successful. So I got more thumbs down. It's great to get thumbs down when you tell people the truth. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Before you retweet, share, oh, we got another thumbs down, good, or actually believe this stuff, do some just basic fact checking. Just give it the smell test. Does this make any sense? Does this make any sense? And then, go out there and do some research. If you care about these topics, then do some research. Go figure out, is this real? And figure out, who's the source? What do I know about these people? Where does this come from? Just, we talked about reason on one of the shows. Reason as our primary virtue, as our primary value, and rationality as a primary virtue. Well, use it, for God's sake. Think. Think means get facts. Think means do research. Think doesn't mean, oh, yeah, sure, I like Trump, and could be the Trump lost, so there must be conspiracies. I believe that guy, and every tweet that I get that reaffirms my bias because I like Trump. Use your mind. Actually do some research. Actually do some work. If you don't want to do the work, that's fine. I completely understand you. But then don't retweet. Don't share. Don't take it as fact. Don't believe in it. And this relates to the virtue of honesty. You have to be honest, which means you have to be able to identify the facts. Having a hunch is not enough. Having a bias is not enough. Because Hannity said it. I think that's called independence, another virtue. Think for yourself. Think for yourself. Alex Jones is not a source. Friends of Alex Jones, reporters of Alex Jones, associates of Alex Jones are not sources. Not legitimately, not without other evidence. And then ask yourself, is anybody providing proof of any of their claims? Do they actually say, here, look, go do this? Right? Ed Kellency says, I find it interesting that when Yaron talked about voter fraud, he mentions Trump, and Trump's people doesn't mention Biden and the left, because Biden and the left are not claiming fraud this election. And they didn't make that big of a deal of it in 2016 when Trump won by a small margin. So why would I mention Biden when I'm talking about fraud in this election, when the only people talking about fraud in this election, the only people complaining, the only people putting together conspiracy theories about fraud is Trump? Why would I mention Biden? It's just bizarre to me why you guys think the way you think. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I need to be balanced about conspiracies regarding voter fraud when only the right is presenting them? Did they do it? Again, evidence, proof. In front of every court in America that's seen this has thrown it out. And you'll see in the coming days that they'll all throw it out. The only one case has a potential to reach the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court might vote in favor of it, and it has no relevance to winning the election. It's the Philadelphia case, but there are not enough votes there to change the outcome. There's no proof of fraud. There's no evidence of fraud. Every single allegation of fraud so far, there's a counter to it. Now, I'm not saying no fraud happened, but to say it did happen requires real evidence. requires evidence you can present in a court of law. And every time they present in a court of law, the court has thrown them out. Now remember, Donald Trump has appointed more judges to federal courts than maybe any president, at least in recent times. So a lot of these judges are probably Republican appointees. And they're throwing this out because there's no there there. Now again, I wouldn't be surprised if there was fraud. I wouldn't be surprised if there was fraud on both sides. Yeah, I mean, I think the PA case will probably be won by Trump, but the PA case is too insignificant to matter. Even Trump people admit that. If they just have that case, first of all, Biden won even without Pennsylvania. So even if they reverse Pennsylvania, it won't change anything. But even if they win that case, the number of votes that fall under that case are not enough to change this election. So yes, there is some question about a decision the Pennsylvania Supreme Court made before the election about what votes could be counted or not. It affects very little votes, very small number of votes that cannot change the election. So who cares? And if the Supreme Court overturns it for the sake of future precedent, fine. But it's not going to change this election. Because there's no systemic fraud. There's no widespread fraud. There's some fraud here and there, and it's probably committed by both parties. The same fraud that happens in every election. I'm the last one to say there's no fraud in elections. There probably is. But the kind of fraud that would reverse the kind of vote count that Biden has over Trump, there is none of that fraud. Or at least there's zero evidence that there's that kind of fraud. And if you listen to all these conspiracy theories about the computer company, Dominion Systems, I mean, it's mind-boggling. Supposedly there's a supercomputer, I think it's in Germany, that Obama used to win the 2012 election. And the supercomputer hacks into the election system in transmission points, and it flips the votes. Now, if you do just a little bit of research online, you will discover that all of that is a bunch of BS. And the people promoting it are just conspiracy theory nobodies. But it's all over the place. It's everywhere because people don't use even basic rules of epistemology, like check your sources, look for confirming facts, figure out how the system of voting works so that would an interference in the middle actually be able to switch votes? It turns you can't. Because, they also, before it's transmitted from the county to the state, there's a paper printout that's made that's distributed widely. So if there was a discrepancy between the two, you'd find it out easily. There is no change the vote to Trump in Dominion systems. And then the conspiracies about who owns Dominions, it's Nancy Pelosi's husband. No, he doesn't. Oh, no, Nancy Pelosi's husband owns the company that writes the software for Dominion. Not anymore, but he used to. But they don't write the software for Dominion. They write other kind of software. It's Avid. They write software for animation and stuff like that. I mean, every time you actually go look at the facts behind one of these conspiracies, you end up in reality, which is, no, there's nothing, there's no there. So please, not for my sake, not for America's sake, not for the future's sake, for your sake, if you have any respect for your mind, don't just accept these things. Don't just accept these things. Challenge yourself to read the opposition. Challenge yourself to fact check. And luckily online, there's a bunch of fact checkers. And you might not believe one, you might not believe two, but at least take that into account, what they write, and you can check for yourself. Usually, with the Google and the internet today, you can find a lot of information. All the materials are retained. And remember, too, Georgia, for example. Georgia's a state run by Republicans. I mean, at every level, they're Republicans. The governors are Republican, the Secretary of State's are Republican, the Attorney General's are Republican. Most of the precincts are run by Republicans. The idea that Georgia pulled one over on Republicans is just a joke. Yeah, Atlanta's Democratic, but you think the Republicans don't have reach into Atlanta when they control the state? Wisconsin Republicans are not weak. They elected many Republicans to higher office over the years. Do you really think that the Democrats just steamrolled Republicans in Wisconsin? Really? Think, people. Think. You got a mind. It's there for a reason. Don't just use it when you do science. Use it too when you would never accept scientific evidence on this basis. You would throw it out. You'd never be published in scientific journals. But somehow, when it comes to politics, we accept anything if it confirms our tribe's bias. All right. Let's see. I mean, Georgia was really close. Georgia was 0.3% of the vote, so they're doing a recount, which is not because of this election, because that's what they do when the vote is closer to 0.5%. And it's unlikely that the result gets shifted, but it's just a few thousand votes. So it's, mistakes, human error could result in something like that. But it's unbelievable that, in Pennsylvania, where it's tens of thousands of votes, Wisconsin, Michigan, where it's a significant number of votes, Arizona, where really has no chance. And by the way, he'd have to overturn a few of those states. One would not be enough. If Georgia flips, that's not enough. Right? If he has Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that's enough. Right? He'd have 200. Biden would have 270. So it's just, I mean, this is just stalling tactics. And in a future show, I'll speculate as to why I think Trump is doing this. And you'll hate me even more. All right, Tucker Carlson. All right, we're going to flip topics now. We're going to go to Tucker Carlson tonight. I'm going to show this video. I'll probably stop it in the middle. For me to comment. But this is the question Tucker Carlson asks, or not asks. This is the answer he gives. This is why America is great. So I want you to think for a second. If I asked you, why is America great? Just think about it for a second. Why is America great? Give me 3 reasons, 2 reasons, 1 reason. What makes America great? And now, trigger warning to Tucker Carlson fans. This is Tucker Carlson's answer to what makes America great. I mean, I have to say that neither one of the 2 reasons he gives would make my top 5. Oh, can you guys hear? You can't hear that, right? All right, here we go. We'll try it again. We'll unmute it this time. That will help. Here we go.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. There is a huge amount going on right now, as you know, really a torrent of news, historic amounts. To begin tonight, we are going to ignore all of it. We've never done that before. This is a news show brought to you on a news channel. But on this second Friday after the election, we'd like to take a 20-minute break from developments. So many things seem so completely screwed up right now that it can be overwhelming. And over time, it's also misleading. If you pay too much attention to what's happening, you can easily conclude that America is a rotten country.
All right. I just want to say, I agree completely with Tucker Carlson. I've said it on the show. Stop obsessing about politics, about what's going on right now, and about what people think about America. So absolutely, take a break. Stop all this. Let's focus on long term, on what really makes America a great country. A great country.
But that's wrong. It's not. America is still the best there is. 2 things about America make it great. The country and its people. This is.
So notice 2 things. The country and the people. I get the people. We'll see if I agree with the way he phrased it. But the country? That's what makes America great?
Truly beautiful place.
It is.
That's the first thing.
It's an amazingly beautiful
If you're absorbed
country.
in your phone all day, it's easy to forget that. But look around. It's stunning. Switzerland has the Alps, Zimbabwe has Victoria Falls, but multiply that by an entire continent, and you've got what we have, America. From the islands of Puget Sound to the islands in Casco Bay, to the Rockies and the Badlands and the Upper Peninsula and the Appalachian Mountains in between. Spend a day hiking through the Shoshone National Forest in Wyoming. You might not see another person. How can a place so gorgeous be so empty? We've got a lot of those here. Wake up in Big Sur, California some morning. The smell of redwoods and salt air will change you. You'll feel things you inherited from your ancestors, coming from places the modern world cannot touch. We are blessed to live in a place like this, more than we acknowledge.
All right. I don't even know where to start on this one, guys. So it's the scenery. It's nature. Wow. It's not New York City, not skyscrapers. It's not Silicon Valley, not technology. Oh, well, we know what Tucker Carlson's view of Silicon Valley is. It's nature. And Tom, yeah, I agree with yours. Your three are pretty good. Although I would put Declaration of Independence. But it's more important than the Constitution. But no, it's the scenery. It's the mountains. It's the lakes. It's going on a hike and not seeing anybody. I mean, you could do that in the Sahara Desert, by the way. You can hike for days and not see anybody. That's what makes America great. The scenery. Nature. Now notice, a long, long time ago I said, this was a long time ago, I said that one day when the authoritarian comes to power, that authoritarian will unite two things. He will unite environmentalism, and that will get people from the left excited about him, and religion, and that'll get people on the right excited about him. The authoritarian of the future in this country, other countries are different, but in this country, will have to unite a love of America with nature, environment, and religion, Christianity. That's what comes together. That is a winning strategy to be the dictator of the United States of America. Tucker Carlson now has one of those. Nature. That's what makes this country great. It's beautiful. Now, look, this country is beautiful. But lots of countries have beautiful nature. Let me say it again. Lots of countries have beautiful nature. Have you ever been to New Zealand? And you can hike in New Zealand for more than one day and not see another human being. That's not unique to America. Israel, tiny little country. Can't hike and not see another human being, probably. Although I've done that. But beautiful nature. That's what makes the country unique, special, great. Not just special, great. No. Nature's nice. Nature's nice. Okay, but there's hope, people. There's hope. There's hope. Because the second one is the American people. Now listen to this.
No matter what happens next, no matter who becomes the president,
remember the country's beautiful.
Future, nothing can diminish the dignity of an eastern white pine towering above the spruce in a New England forest.
How did trees have dignity? I would think you'd say something like, Pfizer, right? Moderna, discovering new drugs. I don't know, something like that. That dignity. Dignity of a tree. Make America great.
All of it is ours to enjoy, thank God. And we've got a lot of people to enjoy it with, an awful lot. Americans are still the best people, misguided as we sometimes are. This isn't an especially religious country anymore, but surveys on church-going do not tell the whole story. Even now, most Americans know they're not really in charge of the universe. They know there's something bigger out there, bigger than all of us combined. And when you understand that, when you know in your bones how small you are and how short the ride is likely to be, you tend to treat people better. Americans do.
So what makes America great is that it has people who think that they're small, insignificant in the big picture of things. And that the ride is short, life is short. And in a sense, what he's really saying is people have faith. Maybe they're not religious in a traditional sense, but they have faith. They have faith. And that's what makes American people great. It's not this sense, and you'll notice throughout this video, freedom is not mentioned once. Liberty is not mentioned once. Individual rights is not mentioned once. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence is not mentioned once. It's our faith that we are small, insignificant beings with a short lifespan, and we can't control the universe. That's what makes America great. I'm speechless. That's rare. We'll keep going because Americans are nice people. They're the nicest people on the planet. Now, they are. But why are Americans nice? Are they nice because they think they're small, puny creatures in this vast universe? Or are they nice because they're free? Isn't it true that free people generally are benevolent people? That freedom breeds benevolence? That people who are founded on the principle of individual rights and therefore on the principle that they can take care of themselves, that they have a mind, that they are responsible for their own life, also respect other people who have the same rights and who have the same capabilities and same abilities. Free people are people who respect other people, respect other people's freedom, other people's minds, other people's productive ability, other people as traders. But no, let's not go there. No. It's the smallness and the short lifespan.
Don't let cable news fool you. Don't let us fool you.
Yeah, don't.
This is a profoundly nice country, the nicest in the world.
It is a nice country.
Americans are kind to children, to pets, to strangers.
Pets, pets is important. You keep repeating this, how wonderful we are to pets. This is what makes America great. We're kind to pets. We don't eat our dogs.
We give more money to charity than any other place.
There's another distinguishing factor. Yes, we do, because we're free. He won't mention that. And the fact that we give charity, it's not that we produce, it's not that we create. Again, it's not Silicon Valley or Pfizer or vaccines or creating or building. It's not skyscrapers. It's nothing creative. It's our charity. That's what makes us the greatest country in the world.
Tip our waiters more.
We tip.
There's no country on earth you'd rather be lost in. Someone will help you.
It's true, all true.
In America, we don't eat dogs. We rescue them.
There we go again with
they
pets.
They sleep on the bed. We give them funny names. We cry when they die.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to comment.
It's a sweet country. In some ways, it's getting better. The music's definitely improving. So is the food.
The music's improving? Music is improving. You just heard Tucker Carlson say that. One of the things that make America great is the music is improving. What universe does he live in?
Believe it or not, we still make things here, and a lot of them are pretty good.
We actually make more things than we've ever made before. One of the lies of the Tucker Carlson and other economic nationalists, we just make them with fewer people because we're super efficient at it. We'll talk about efficiency some other time.
That probably won't change. Americans love innovation, but they're distrustful of anyone's radical plans for the future. Most people here don't want an abrupt reshuffling of everything.
Remember the American Revolution? Yes, it's true. Today, Americans don't want a dramatic reshuffling of things but they certainly did during the Revolution. That's what it was. It was called a revolution.
They'd prefer incremental improvement. That's why we've had only one revolution. It's why we fought off the metric system all these years.
We fought off the metric system. And this is a virtue? The metric system is so much more rational than ounces and pounds and miles and God. But no, Tucker, it's American to hate the metric system. We don't want revolutions. We want incremental change. Puerto Rico, by the way, has incremental change. So at the gas pump, they price it all, and the gas is all in liters. But everything else is in the old system. Like they started to move towards metric, and they stopped, which is the worst of all worlds. You get a combination of both.
We have. It's why we still have Christmas, and always will. Christmas in America is great.
This is what makes
Even
America
if you don't
great.
really understand
Christmas.
what it's about.
I didn't know that.
Many people don't. It's still the happiest time of the year, and therefore it's the most American. America is a happy country.
It is, or was, or should be. But why? Isn't that what's interesting? Isn't the real question, why? And maybe that has to do with freedom. Maybe that has to do with the Founding Fathers. Maybe that has to do with the principles on which this country was founded. Not in Tucker Carlson's world.
Despite everything, our happiness is fundamental. It's in our founding documents.
Yeah.
It's in our people.
Yeah.
Nothing happening tonight can take that away. Good evening and welcome.
All right. I think that speaks for itself. The shallowness, the arrogance, the stupidity of it, and that combination of love of nature, environmentalism, religion. Not explicitly stated in Christian terms necessarily, but religion. I'm afraid of Tucker Carlson. He scares me. I've said this before. It's a Tucker Carlson view of the world that scares me. His transformation from a small L libertarian type, free market type, to a nationalist, conservative, pro-environment. Remember, conservatives were always pro-environment. It was Teddy Roosevelt who started in the national parks and confiscated land in order to so-called preserve it. And that's a bigger issue. We should talk about national parks sometime. But Tucker scares me. Tucker's views of the world scare me. And this combination of left and right, which Tucker embodies, leftist economics with rightist nationalism and religion, respect and admiration for religion, that combination, religion on top of religion, is truly scary and the thing to be most worried about in our future. All right. Hopefully that gives you a sense of why I dislike Tucker Carlson. Okay, let's try to do these quickly. All right, this first one was, I'm starting with the $20 ones. This one relates to what we just talked about, so let me do this quickly. Perhaps his romanticizing of nature without seeing people is because of his collectivism entails people as each other's enemies. Maybe, but I think it's more about how beautiful nature is. And nature is beautiful, but what's really beautiful, what really inspires is sending man to the moon, is seeing a rocket launch by, and it's seeing a vaccine developed in 7 months. It's seeing, it's seeing great industrialists and great entrepreneurs do what they do. It's seeing the skyscrapers of New York City. That's what is truly inspiring. That's what is truly inspiring. All right, a 90% effective vaccine has been available since November 6th. Yes. We cannot buy because of the FDA. Yes. I think ARI should have a death clock showing the number of deaths since the 6th in Times Square. Make the status defend murder. That's a really good idea. I don't know how expensive that would be, but that's a really good idea. And the point is, yes, every day that goes by that you're not allowed to take a vaccine is a day that the government is murdering people. What do you think about the World Economic Forum or Open Society Foundation? I don't mean Soros conspiracy theories. What do these organizations really want? Well, the Open Society Foundation is a leftist advocacy group that wants to establish what are called open societies around the world. Open society is it's a term that he got from Popper, from Karl Popper. Soros is a student of Karl Popper's, as was Hayek. So you can get socialist, you can get libertarian, all out of Karl Popper. But George Soros was a student of Karl Popper. Open society is a term Karl Popper refers to, and it's what you would imagine a benevolent leftist, not a communist, but a leftist world would look like. A lot of democracy, a lot of voting, taking care of everybody, not discriminating against anybody, spending a lot of money on the poor, giving government a lot of power because government is benevolent and so on. So what they're advocating for is kind of a more socialist Scandinavia. So worse than Scandinavia kind of thing, right? Yeah, I mean, David Deutsch is a student of Karl Popper. I mean, Karl Popper is one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century. And George Soros is definitely one of, if you read George Soros' books, which I actually did at some point, he's an advocate of the Open Society. He's an advocate of Karl Popper's. He's an advocate of kind of a mild form of socialism, but he funds pretty radical groups for a variety of reasons. So who knows? Maybe he's become more communist over the years or more socialist over the years. I don't know, but he's a bad guy with bad ideas. The World Economic Forum is just a World Economic Forum. It's just a group that is involved, is entrepreneurs, business leaders, governments, economists, who discuss economics, economic ideas, economic development, but they're basically leftist. And they're not leftist because there's a conspiracy. They're not leftist because there's anything weird going on in the world. They're leftist because everybody's a leftist. Everybody in the ivory tower, everybody who is, most people who are dedicated to government and politics are leftists. Most people who are in academia are leftists. Most economists are leftists. Most, unfortunately, entrepreneurs are leftists. So it tends left, not again because there's some conspiracy, and they're not communists, but they are mixed economy, left-oriented. So all these organizations are bad. They advocate for evil ideas. They advocate for anti-capitalist ideas. But primarily because that's all they know. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's because that's where the intellectual mainstream is. I mean, you have to understand the intellectual mainstream shapes the world. This is why university professors are important. Intellectuals are important. Public intellectuals are important. Who leading entrepreneurs go to for advice, intellectual advice, is important. By definition, no objectivist is a leftist. That would be bizarre. And it's a contradiction in terms, and it's an anti-conceptual idea. But it's that's the way. If the left dominates the intellectual space, then the big entities, the organizations, are going to be leftist-leaning organizations. I was debating free will and brought up introspection as evidence. In response, he said, that's like saying, when I introspect, I see God. Introspection is not a scientific argument. What would you say to that? I'd say that he is deceiving himself. It's as legitimate a scientific argument as is extrospection. So if I point to this, now most people today don't believe in the senses either, but if I point to this and see iPhone, right, see iPhone, then, and my senses are the ultimate evidence, then yeah, what I observe about my own workings of my consciousness is evidence. Now, just like people observe in the world out there, they're delusional sometimes about it. People can be delusional about what they introspect and they observe when they introspect. You need to be objective about what you're really introspecting. And when people introspect, almost everybody, they observe that they choose. And there's no reason to question that because I can observe it in me. So, yeah, somebody else says, I see God. And I go, but I don't. But everybody introspects free will. The only way they can deny free will is through ex post rationalization. They have to rationalize free will away. It's an illusion. But almost nobody sees God. That's why in the Catholic Church, you don't communicate directly with God. There has to be a pope, because the founders of the Catholic Church realized that if they said everybody communicates with God, and since nobody does, they'd realize very quickly that it's a scam. Now, the Protestants managed to get over that because, I don't know why, but they somehow managed to convince you that you can talk to God, and somehow you can sustain that delusion. But the fact is, nobody through introspection denies free will. They then rationalize it away. Oh, it doesn't comport with my physics. Well, but evidence of the senses comes before physics, not after physics. And introspection is a valid sense in that sense. Now, again, the other way to refute the whole argument is you can't argue. You can't make a statement without assuming you have free will. There's no meaning to talking about morality, for example, as Sam Harris does, if you don't have choices. You have a choice between this action or that action. That's what free will means. And if you don't have that choice, then morality means nothing. And your statements mean nothing. And reason means nothing. And we're just automatons. Any idea what the hell happened to Dave Rubin? He seems to be full-on Trumpist now, yes. Defending everything Trump says and does, including his election fraud conspiracy theories. Would AOI still associate with him today? Not right now. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say no right now. I'd have to go and figure out exactly what's going on with him. But I've been worried about him for the last year or so. He's clearly gone off the deep end with his pro-Trump stuff. And it all was a consequence of Jordan Peterson. He became very, very, very influenced by Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson sets you on this path. And it's not a good path. It's a path that focuses on religion, on faith, on something. And it divorces you from reason and evidence and actually thinking. Yeah, somebody says there's an interview with Dave Rubin and Alan Dershowitz. I'll look at that. But yeah, I mean, he told me he was heavily, heavily influenced by Jordan Peterson. And that's not a good thing. Jordan Peterson is very dangerous. Very dangerous. His ideas are very dangerous. Is community policing better than broken window policing? Police in the United States take a more adversarial approach with police than law enforcement in Western Europe. Yeah, I mean, I think community policing is good. To some extent, it can be consistent with broken window policing, and it's been successful when they've been done right. Broken window policing is not the opposite of community policing. Broken window policing is about going into the neighborhoods and dealing with the petty things that bother the community on a day-to-day basis. Not just focusing on the big crimes, but focusing on the little things that the community actually cares about, like graffiti, like people harassing people in intersections and stuff like that. People smashing windows, that's why it's called broken window policing. I think some combination of those. Now, you have to also consider if the laws are rational laws or not. I don't think either one of them works if the laws are irrational. But Europe also has it a little easier in terms of where America was in terms of crime rates early on, and there was no choice but to be adversarial, given how bad Western Europe was. So here, Jordan Peterson is dangerous, left speak. How is that left speak? It's actually objectivist speak. Jordan Peterson, I've met people who've said they used to be atheists and they became religious because of Jordan Peterson. I consider that dangerous. How is that left? See, that's exactly the weirdness of these unthinking people who, if you oppose one of their gods, or if you like Trump, or if you oppose Jordan Peterson, you're a leftist. No, I'm an objectivist. Objectivists believe that faith, rather than reason, is dangerous, is harmful. Somebody advocating and convincing people to abandon reason for the sake of faith, that person is dangerous. That is not a leftist argument. That's an objectivist argument. Now, maybe you consider objectivism to be on the left, but that means the left is meaningless. So, if somebody thinks Jordan Peterson is great, then you can't be an objectivist, not fully. You can't agree with Jordan Peterson and objectivism. You can agree with one or the other. Jordan Peterson contradicts objectivism epistemology, he contradicts objectivist ethics, he contradicts objectivist metaphysics. And he's not a capitalist. He's not a laissez-faire capitalist. So how is Jordan Peterson? It's Jordan Peterson or objectivism. It can be both. Now, you can enjoy certain things about Jordan Peterson, certain of his lectures, certain of his ideas, without endorsing Jordan Peterson, and you still need to be able to see that he's dangerous. All right, this is a question. LP still praises Barney during his birthday by continuing to work with Barney. Is Peikoff saying that objectivists can work with him too? You'll have to ask Leonard, why are you asking me? And you have to ask Carl, why are you asking Carl Barney? Don't ask me. I don't want these questions. Please stop asking me. I'm not interested in this topic. You want to ask me about Leonard, things that don't relate to this? I'm happy, maybe, to answer to them. But if you want to know why is Leonard doing this or why is Carl Barney doing this, ask them. I don't want to speculate on what they're doing. Why don't intellectuals want us to be happy and free? Well, because they think that happiness goes against morality. Because they're inundated with an altruist morality. And altruist morality says that happiness is a consequence of self-interest, and therefore is a vice. Happiness and the practical is immoral. The moral is impractical. That's essentially most ethical theories. Right? Most ethical theories. Okay, here's one on the topic, and then I'm going to have to cut it short, so we'll probably pick up these super chat questions another time. If an atheist becomes religious, is it safe to say they were never really an atheist? No. I mean, you can be an atheist. Atheism is a lack of belief in a God. That doesn't mean you hold any positive philosophy. You change your mind. So it doesn't mean you weren't an atheist before. It just means you change your mind about it. It's not like being an atheist means you're an advocate for reason, and then you reject reason. That would be harder, right? Maybe you never really were an advocate for reason. You could maybe make that argument. But no, in this case, an atheist just means you don't think God exists, and then you change your mind about that. Have you ever caught an employee stealing or lying? How did you handle it? I mean, the one time I caught an employee doing something like that, I fired them. But it's only happened to me once, maybe. But lying and stealing is not to be tolerated. Not if the lying is obvious. In stealing, of course, right? So I don't think you can tolerate it. Okay, this will probably be, let's see if I can get how many of these I can do quickly. Is Michael Sandel a Marxist determinist? I don't know. I don't think he's that easy to pigeonhole. I think he's all over the map. I don't think he's anything in particular. With his debate, he certainly has an element of determinism. I don't know that he's a Marxist or how much of a Marxist he is. Will his debate with Ankov on Friday be open to everyone live? No. One of the conditions by which Michael Sandel agreed to debate Ankov was that the video would not be made public. So in order to watch the debate, you have to be an OAC student or registered for OAC. And then if you are a subscriber to the Ayn Rand Institute, you can become a subscriber for relatively little. We will show, you will be able to participate in a session where you see clips of the debate. But Michael Sandel did not want to make it public. I don't know, he's afraid of being associated with Ayn Rand, he's afraid of being beaten in a debate. I don't know, but he did not, that was his condition for doing it, was that it would not be public. Atlas Shrugged is the greatest symphony of language a human being has ever produced. Yeah, I think so. Greatest novel ever produced. When people such as Lex did claim they get immense value from helping others, how much of that is real versus altruistic brainwashing? Hard to tell. Hard to tell. It's a combination. For almost everybody, it's a combination. But the exact proportion depends on the human being, depends on the person. I don't know. And I don't know how to measure it. You'd have to know a person pretty well to figure that out. How serious is anti-vaxxers to achieving herd immunity of vaccination? Is any legislation justified? No, no legislation is justified. It's never justified to force people to vaccinate. Certainly not with COVID. And I don't know. I don't think anti-vaxxers achieve herd immunity. And at the end of the day, as long as you get vaccinated, why do you care about them? Let them get the disease and suffer the consequences. Heron, where would you live if tax rates were the same everywhere? Southern California. It's beautiful, best weather in the world. Just a great atmosphere. Silicon Valley is great. Yeah, Southern California because of the weather primarily, and everything about it is amazing except the taxes and the government regulations and all that. So it would have to involve government regulations as well. So if tax rates and regulations were the same everywhere. An open society just means societies where people are free as opposed to closed society like dictatorship theocracies. Are you saying the term has been taken over by leftists? Yes. At least it's been taken over by George Soros-style leftists. He uses it extensively. He means it to be more than just So for him, open means equal opportunity, helping the poor. So much more socialist in that sense, much more leftist. Even though I don't think it's far left. Some of it might be. Is Treasurer of Sierra Madre, Houston talks about mining gold. It sounds Marxist. Gold is costly because all the labor needed to get it. No, I mean, gold is costly because of all the labor needed to get it. The cost of mining it determines how much gold will be mined. And the higher the cost. So the cost of production matters with gold. It's not irrelevant to the production of gold. I don't think Houston was that particular statement is Marxist, but I'd need to go back to watch the movie to see what the context was, Frank, to really give you a proper answer about that. All right, we got through all the Super Chat questions. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget, before you leave, to like the show. We should be over 200. We're at 170 now, so 30 people, please like the show and get the number out there. Yeah, we got a lot of thumbs down because of the fraud and Trump and stuff like that. What can I do? If you press the thumbs down by accident, please unpress it. Those of you new to the show, thanks for being here. Hopefully some of you came from the Lex Fridman show interview, and I really appreciate you joining and subscribing and joining us and hopefully participating in the Super Chat, although don't be scared off by the crazies in my Super Chat. There are a bunch of them there. Again, please like the show. And don't forget to support the show. You can support the show on... We didn't do great on Super Chat today. So don't forget to support the show. You can support the show on YaronBrookShow.com/support. If you find value in it, please, value for value, trade, show that in supporting the show through Super Chat, through YaronBrookShow.com/support. You can also support the show on Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals. So in the meantime, if you haven't watched the Lex Fridman show, episode with him interviewing me, go do it now. Oh, I got another thumbs down. Look at that. It's great to piss off the I guess it's the Trumpists to the point where they are going thumbs down me. All right, we need 5 more thumbs up to get to 200. Thanks, everybody. I will... Oh, Arturo, I'm glad you saw the Lex interview. I'm glad you thought it was good. Is that how you found out about my show? Is that how you discovered it? I hope so. I hope lots of people did. All right, bye, everybody.